Hello, I'm Karol Bartosiak. Welcome to another episode of IT Insights InsurTalk series by Future Processing. Today we'll be covering one of the most challenging elements of technology in insurance business, core system modernization program. According to McKinsey and Project Management Institute studies, failure rate for programs of this magnitude is between 40 and 70%. Cost of the failure may vary from 10 to 100 millions of US dollars for insurer. So we speak about something very serious. However, today we'll be talking about very successful core system modernization completed in a way that is unusual for this business. It's zero critical defect go live. Today with me is James Holmes, author of this success, with whom we'll try to understand the anatomy of this successful business case. James?
Yeah, hi, Carol. Thank you very much for inviting me along today. My name is James Holmes. I am Interim Program Director and CIO. I have extensive experience of program, business change and service delivery across a number of sectors, covering both FMCG and also insurance. More recently, I've led a very large-scale business transformation program, Modernising systems in the insurance space.
James, to begin our interview, if you could explore more about core system, what exactly is the system about?
A core system is your fundamental system that is running or underpins your business processes. So without having a core system in place, you are unable to function as a business.
Okay, and how we understand the modernization, so changing the system?
So from a modernization point of view, it's really important that your core systems aren't holding you back, and they're able to support the business and actually even help increase market share and improve services to the customer.
Okay, so here we speak about very delicate system at the very heart of the business with complex modernization. And here while preparing to the interview, we're using also the metaphor of a snake game to explain how the modernization work. So we speak about old-fashioned legacy game snake that is absorbing each specific piece of technology or business process, growing each time it absorbs this element, starts quickly to become lengthy, difficult to navigate, and easy to crush obstacles. Is it the right metaphor we can use to explain?
It's a really good metaphor, that, Carol, because, you know, I grew up in the 80s and had great experience of playing with these snake games, and some of the challenges of trying to navigate the snake around the course is really quite difficult and challenging, and you've got to make sure you're able to control it. And so why do you want to enter into this game? Well, actually, simply put, it's the business case. The business case is absolutely the most important bit of information or piece of work that you want to do on your program, because without the business case, you would not be able to prove the value actually going along. So the business case underpins everything, because as soon as you're clear on the business case, in other words, if I invest this much money, then these are the benefits that I will get back. And then it's those benefits that you need to really focus on as you start to go through the journey. How am I going to deliver those benefits underpinned by technology?
Okay, thank you. And James, why you entered the game?
Okay, we had a number of challenges. We had a very old legacy system in place that had been around for a very long time. And we built a business case, and that really demonstrated very clearly the benefits that we could get if we could actually deliver them. There was innovation. We wanted to get to market faster. We wanted to be able to respond quicker to market changes. We wanted to increase productivity within the team. McKinsey very clearly articulates that process or policy improvement can drive efficiencies of up to about 40% improvements. 40%. Supportability. That was one of the challenges that I had in a former role that I had. We had a very old legacy system, and we had a very small number of people in the market that were able to support such a system. We've got risk management as well. You know, we can start to see the technologies, artificial intelligence, machine learning, starting to drive more and more of our business and being used in our business, but actually having such an old system, it was quite difficult to get to the data, so we couldn't use some of those modern technologies to get after that. There's a couple of other opportunities that we identified as part of this. Regulatory compliance. As we all know, in the insurance or the financial services world, regulation is getting more and more complicated, and therefore we needed to make sure that we could comply with both UK, European and global regulatory requirements. So customer service is really key. How do we differentiate ourselves in a really competitive market? We wanted to improve our digital services and our digital channels, and we also wanted to make sure we could improve customer service and satisfaction. And then finally, a couple of other things that are really important is data and the integration with other systems. You know, we look nowadays and more of these ecosystems that are being developed include integrations with other third parties. That could be IoT, it could be other third-party data streams that feed in and work together with all of our data to give a much better understanding of what is actually happening.
So we're talking about a very complex multi-angle business case that is making a drive to initiate the program. And actually, this is something that is also a lighthouse for the program management later on, yes?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, because, and I'll come back to this later on, but having that business case is core to the whole of your decision or every decision that you make on the program. That's how you, it helps you make it, gives you those guiding principles as you're going along and you're navigating the snake along that journey. You use the business case to help try and drive the direction.
James, we understand now what is the core system. We can visualize the modernization, our snake game. Now the next question arises, how to navigate the snake to get a high score and avoid the obstacles?
Okay, so just like a snake charmer plays a tune to control or manage the snake, that's what program management is all about. It's about putting boundaries in place and controls in place to make sure that the snake doesn't deviate off, or in our case, the program doesn't deviate off from the plan of where it's got to go. A well-run program ensures there's the right level of program management. Quite often people go and they hear about program management and governance and they worry that there's this huge, heavily cumbersome thing that really restricts what can happen on a program. But actually, it's about getting that balance right. Sometimes, depending on the size and the complexity of the program, you might need to put more governance around it, and sometimes you can put less. Over all the years that I've been working in this area, there's a number of areas that I've learned and I focus a lot on. And actually, the first one is around ownership, and that's ownership by the business. You've got to be very clear that these change programs are not technology programs, but they are business change programs, and they've got to be owned by the business. So come back to the business case. Where are the benefits identified in the business case? Quite often they will be in operational areas or other parts of the business that are outside IT. So it's really important that you get sponsorship from the business to help and support the program.
James, one more question, because very often, representing the technology, we face the situation that modernization programs, or in general technology, this is technology department business.
Yes.
Here you raise the subject that it's business that is actually the owner.
Yeah. From all of the transformation programs that I have done over the years, if I look back, what's made it successful is that the business has taken some ownership or responsibility for the delivery of the program. Because ultimately, they're the recipient of the solution. Yes, you've got the technology team that will be supporting it and helping deliver the solution, but actually the day-to-day use of the solution is very much an operational.
So we speak that the business case needs to prove very, very specific value for the business, so they know that there is a case to take the journey, and also from change management perspective to make them realize that they will be the ultimate user of the system. So it will be serving to them, not to technology department.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's absolutely key, and it's engaging the right levels. First of all, you need to have that senior management involvement right at the very top to be able to support and drive the program forward. Some of the other points that I have learned over the years is around governance. And as I mentioned earlier, why some people get turned off with governance, you've got to have that right amount of governance to ensure program success. It needs to be clear and it needs to be robust. This can range from making sure that the right escalation processes are in place, we've got the right risk and issue management, and then also we have the right steering groups in place to ensure that the decisions are being made at the right level, and the senior executive team, depending on the size and scale of the program, have a good understanding and visibility of the program as it develops.
How you try to balance, the administration burden with the real efficiency?
So in my role in my role as an interim program director, I go into the business, and the first thing that I want to do before I start to introduce any governance into a program is to understand the maturity of the business. So it very much depends on the maturity of the business and the size and scale and complexity of the program that you're going to run.
Here also, I will make a step back about building the business case with the stakeholders, because it seems that a lot of workshopping was done in the very initial stages of the program to make people really realize what the program is up to, what's their expectations, and later on what needs to be reported to them, so they clearly understand where are we. How much time have you spent on, very often our customers try to jump into execution. And here you always try to highlight the fact of case, communication, governance before actually doing something. So avoid jumping to conclusions and execution, rather workshop, make sure they understand.
Yeah, it's absolutely key. Actually, I read a really interesting article on LinkedIn the other day. I can't remember the statistics for it, but it talked about this very thing. Don't rush to bring on your implementation partner and go full speed. Go slowly, make sure that you've got everything right, make sure you've got your building blocks in place, and then start to onboard everybody, and bring everybody up, and then the program will go a lot smoother when everyone's clear of what's going on, and you just take it slow and steady to begin with. And as that program gets bigger, then you can start to build the momentum on it.
Could you tell us something more about the impact of leadership to program success and your tips in this area?
Yeah, so there's a number of things that I've learned over the years, ranging from, I think, being the most important is being open and transparent. So it boils down to communication and the way you communicate. I think you've got to be very, very clear on how you communicate, especially in times of challenge or difficulty. Having a leader being able to drive the program forward in a steady and controlled way with some very clear leadership is really, really important.
Because here, also observing your leadership style, there was a high level of empowerment that you delegated to your management. And also, there was nothing like, sometimes it's observed, micromanagement. So it was very smooth. People knew exactly what to do. It was rather attention to the risk factors, decisions to be taken, status. Rest was almost happening on the individual expert level that was participating in the program.
Yeah, I think leadership is a very fine skill to have, and it took me time to build and develop that style. I think the way I work is I give people very clear guardrails. So I give them boundaries and say, together we agree that's the direction of travel. Here's the guardrails that you can go. But actually, I then step back and let them go and do their own job, and I empower them. But I actively encourage them, if they need help, if they're stuck, if they don't know how to make a decision or they need some guidance, then to come and see me. And this is all about feedback. Everybody that you work with works in a slightly different way. So when I'm talking to my team and I'm talking to my managers and my team, it's about remembering each of those individual styles and skills, and then just giving them, some need a little bit of extra support in areas and some don't. So that's it. I think there's a number of other factors as well, is regular engagement with the senior management team. So if you're in an executive role, you're regularly engaging with the executive team and even the wider team, so that they can really understand the progress of the program and, in total transparency, the challenges that you might also be having as you go through the program. I think also another really important factor is to make sure that everybody's clear on their accountabilities. That includes third parties. So if you're working with third parties, and when you're working with third parties, you need to make sure that you're really clear on what they're accountable for and what you or the client is accountable for as well. And then finally, I think two other points that I would note is, you need to make sure the decision-making is made at the right level. That's always a cultural challenge as well. Are the smaller decisions being made at the right level? And then as they become bigger or more high risk, are they then being made at the right level within the business? And finally, a really important thing is to remember to celebrate. You know, things don't always go right. Sometimes they go wrong, but when things go right and you go live on a program and you had a really good delivery, then you should celebrate, because that's what it's all about. It's you got to have a bit of fun in all of this.
Okay, James, also exploring the subject of program management, communication with top executives. What does it require to be efficient in your role, talking to the top executives while driving the program and facing situation that you need to take decisions, sometimes pivot? What communication needs to be applied?
So one of the key things, I think, being a senior IT executive is to ensure that you can translate the technical complexity into really simple, non-technical speak for your executive peers. I think that is absolutely key. When you get to an executive or program director level, that ability to translate really complex technical program management related issues or risks to in a much simpler way is absolutely key. There was a number of occasions when we talked about trains and train tracks and explaining how a program is followed. And just like we talked earlier about the snake, use really simple analogies. So one of my tips is to say, use a really simple analogy. Somebody was talking to me the other day about comparing a program to a house and then decorating the house and going through the house, building each of the rooms up, the kitchen, the bathroom, and the bedroom. And that's just like program management from a technology point of view. You're building up different areas or sections of the solution to then have a totality with it all working together.
We speak about making it very, very visual for top executives. We don't go into technical details, not to blur the vision of what they need to understand. And we speak about this attention to the right decisions to be taken, yes? So where they need to pay attention to in a very specific moment, yes?
That's right. Very much focus on the information that is needed to make that decision. So explain it, explain what the problem is, but in a simple and easy to understand way. Explain what your recommendation is, and then work with the executive team to ensure that they completely understand and support the recommendation and the decision you're going to make.
Okay, so the full background, as simple as possible, what could be the consequences and spectrum of options for the decision making to be taken.
That's correct, yeah.
I believe that this is also valuable in the discussion about the right balance in governance. So not too much, not too little. It must be also fitted to the maturity and also actual situation that top executives are facing to make the right decision in a specific stage of the program, yes?
That is right. So if you look, executives have got very busy lives. 1 minute they could be talking about financial information, next minute they could be talking to customers, and the next minute they could be talking about IT business transformation programs. So you need to make sure when you're communicating with them, you do it in a really clear and concise and easily understandable way.
Okay. Speaking about executives, I remember that you always got a lot of attention to CFO. So probably this was the budgetary element that needs to be under control. Does it require some specific communication about how the program develops, or what was your way of communicating with CFO?
So the CFO I used to work for was a CFO, but also had a bit of COO, so Chief Operating Officer role within his remit. So it was really important for him to understand the journey we're going on, and ultimately him and I were the executive sponsors of the program. So it was really key that it's not just an IT person, but it's an operational person or somebody else outside IT that's able to sponsor the program as well.
James, point I would like to also make a deep dive, the change management. So one thing is that the system actually works, performs, operates. Second thing is that people who are using the system, know how to use the system, and actually they use the system. How you achieve that?
Okay, so there's some very important things that you do well in advance of going live. Is you need to understand how they work today. You need to explain to them the benefits of moving to new ways of working, and therefore in a new system. And then also think very much about what's in it for them. So very much think about, you're sat in their shoes, doing their job. What impact is that going to have when we move to the new ways of working? So it's really important that you understand that and you explain to them the benefits of why they need to move to the new ways of working. You make sure you do that in a really clear and concise way through a number of communications, both different types of communication. Some of it might be over Teams, video, it could be written newsletters, or it could be recorded video, all the way through to potentially person-to-person in classroom training and testing.
Okay, about the benefit, we speak about the general business case, but I hear that you speak about this very personal business case for each person that is using the system. So what benefits are coming to this specific person from your system?
Yeah, it is absolutely key. As everybody knows with change, that generally people don't like change, so therefore you need to bring people along on the journey. And one of the key things to think about is what's in it for them, what are the benefits that they are going to get out of it. I would hope that some of the work that you have done is very much thinking about how they work and how you can improve and make them more efficient so they can make their job easier, because ultimately that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make their job easier so they can get on and they can focus potentially on more complicated, difficult things.
Does lead us back again to McKinsey study about this 40% of improvement in efficiency. So we speak that our users, after implementation of new system, also observe on their level the improvement of quality of their work.
Yeah, improvement in quality, improvement in efficiency, and moving from a legacy system, an old legacy system, to a modern one. The user experience is very different. The ways of working are potentially very different as well. The data that's being collected could be very different. So again, if we're asking teams to capture more data than they used to capture before, we need to be really clear and explain to them why they're doing it and the benefits of doing that.
By the way, also while designing the new system and the business processes, have you been engaging users and people who are operating into the process?
Absolutely. So another really key element is when you're doing a change program. I talked earlier about engaging the operational teams in the program. You need to engage those that are going to use the system at a really early stage so that they absolutely understand how it's going to work, and they may even have an opportunity to some of the ways of working.
So we speak about engaging them from the day one when you start building the business case, through the process of developing the new processes, the system, so they contribute, they understand, they see the value, the personal value they could take from the system, so how it will improve their own work. And at the end, this makes that they actually use the system and they also contribute to the ultimate program success. So the system works, operates, and is in use.
Absolutely. So it's a win-win.
James, here we could explore a bit more the communication element as a very crucial point about program management. What would be your tips about executing communication in a program when you also engage with strategic partner?
It's really important that you invest the time and the effort with your strategic partner. So for example, flying over to Poland to go and see the whole of the team, explain why the business was doing what it was doing, the situation it was in, talk about some of the benefits that it was looking to achieve, making sure that the team understood the current status of the program and also what was happening next. And then also use that as an opportunity to bring some of the other UK-based team members out to Poland as well and spend time celebrating the successes that you've delivered to date. So I'll come back to one of the points I talked about earlier around communication. That is a really important point. You need to make sure everybody is really clear on what is happening and when it's happening. So we did regular town halls explaining where we were, what we were doing, what the next stages of the program was, and if there was any challenges that we were experiencing on the program, we would explain them to the teams. There's a very fine line between how much you explain and how much that you decide that you really want to share with the senior management, but it's about getting that balance right, because if you get it wrong, you can get people worrying. So it's about trying to get that balance right.
Here also one of the elements that were part of the program management, strategic partner. So external company assisting you with the modernization, and question how you selected the right partner.
Okay. So I have 3 principles that I would look to select for a strategic partner. The first one being cultural fit. I think that's what the most important thing. Do they talk the same language as us? Do they understand the problem that we're trying to work through and trying to fix? The second is around their technical capability to do that. So in this particular case, could the strategic partner provide the technical capability or the technical services to deliver what we wanted? And third and final is the commercial, but that's the lowest priority of all. The most important, I will reiterate, is the cultural fit and the strategic partner truly understanding what problem you're trying to address so that they can help and support and deliver that.
All this approach, together with state-of-the-art program management, resulted in something very unusual. So we speak about the case of zero critical defect go live for a core system. Uninterrupted operations. No negative impact for business. It is impressive. James, how you achieved that?
I took a number of learnings from my very first go live, and again, I continue to use those learnings from my very first go live, which was a little bit bumpy and a little bit challenging, to make sure that all my go lives going forward take this into account. So we had the right governance in place. So I come back to making the right decisions at the right level. So we were really, really clear on that. We had really clear communication and preparation. So people knew exactly what they were doing and when they were doing it. We also practice. So that cut over to go live as we transition from the old core systems to the new core systems, we practiced that a number of times to make sure that we got it right.
So it's nothing on the paper that you just put once and it's done. It's the practice and preparations.
And we prepared with future processing for 24/7 support during that first period of go live in case we had any trouble. But actually, it was great to be able to tell the team to stand them down after less than a week because we didn't have any critical defects at go live at all. That is a huge achievement, and well done to all those involved in the go live.
You also was very, very open for speaking about the date for the go live. So it's changed a couple of times.
Yes.
If you could give us the understanding why you took decision and the risk also of changing the go live date.
Okay. So another one of the great learnings that I've taken from my years of experience is don't be afraid to delay a go live. And the reason I say that is I've seen too many times in the newspapers of people rushing go lives and then significant business impact happening after that. As we were going through the program, we came across some challenges that we had to work through. And we as a program team decided that the best thing to do was actually to delay it, because whilst it would delay for several months and there would be a cost associated with that, the cost would be a lot less than if we'd gone live and then spent the next 4 or 5 or 6 months, a lot longer, recovering and trying to fix some of the issues that we'd identified.
To understand this complete picture, one element is the business case. Yeah. And the second one is a very, very careful decision about when to go live with the system to make it actually perform and be a success.
Yes. You've got to balance that against business risk and cost. Again, I'll come back to the fact that you've got to be very careful. You know, we see in the papers all the time these failed go lives or system implementations because people aren't brave enough to say no and say the system or the processes or the ways of working aren't ready, and then they just launch them, and then you see the ramifications of that afterwards.
Here, James, I would like to highlight, the opportunity of having interview with you, because, while also studying and preparing for program management, very often you can encounter information that, requirements management is important, stakeholder management, all those matters. But doing a deep dive together with you, we've got very, very good understanding of the business case and also careful timing for the go live, that the program is actually successful. So failure rate is 40 to 70%, and to make it successful means good definition of the problem you are solving, the case, and also careful timing, not to rush, but actually be ready to launch in the moment that is beneficial for all the stakeholders that are participating or using in the following stages the system. Is it right?
Yes, that's correct. It's absolutely key. The business case, and then deciding when you want to go live, but only go live when you believe the systems are ready and the processes are ready to go live.
I would explore one more element. This is about the morale, because, also following the decision to postpone the go live, we've got situation that people need to believe. And even with clear communication, with all the governance we've got in place, there were moments that there was some hesitation, and we needed to address this very human aspect of program management that people believe. how you achieve that people actually stay focused and they will be believing at the ultimate success.
So what we did, again, it comes back to being open and transparent. We very clearly articulated what the problem was and the reason why we didn't want to go live. And then we explained very clearly the logic behind how long it would take until we would be able to go live. So we don't go out explaining that we've got a problem, we can't go live, and we'll come back and tell you at a later date what's actually happening. We were very clear on our communication plan. We explained that we weren't able to, it wasn't safe to go live. We explained the reasons why it wasn't safe to go live. And then we explained how we were going to remediate that and when it was safe to go live.
What will be your takeaways and best lessons learned you could share with the audience?
Okay, so I'll take two really important lessons learned from this conversation. First one is the business case. Make sure you have a really solid, robust business case and that everybody is bought into it. And secondly, it's really important to have a good strategic partner, somebody you can trust, but you can also hold to account, and you have that relationship so that they can challenge you as the client as well as you challenging them. It's got to be a two-way relationship, because the strategic partner can bring so much experience to the table, and make sure you listen to that as well. And we talked about a strategic partner earlier and that cultural fit, but trust plays a really important part of that. And obviously we've been working together for a long time, and therefore that trust was there, that mutual trust. So when we decided to when we changed the critical path, I trusted my team and your team as one to go away and work out how we can then solve that next technical problem that we ran into.
James, thank you for sharing your experience and all the insights with our audience. It was a real pleasure to talk with you and always work with you, because we also got this experience. So it's really appreciated.
Excellent. Thank you very much indeed, Carol.
James,
thank you.
Thank you. And dear audience, I hope that you enjoyed today's episode of IT Insights, and that you also found something valuable for you in program management and core modernization experience that James shared with us. Thank you, and see you next time.
IT Insights, talks on business and IT challenges with tech leaders. Visit us at itinsights.tech and dive into our podcasts, webinars and events.